The stars looked different from this viewing port. Commander Alan Wright stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the unfamiliar patterns of light. After 3 weeks on the diplomatic vessel, he still found it hard to sleep. The Yachter ship's gravity was set slightly lower than Earth standard, and the air held strange scents from its various non-human occupants. "Commander, we're approaching the Confederation hub," called Lieutenant Samantha Collins from her station. She was younger than Alan, with dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun and eyes that missed nothing. "They're sending docking instructions now." Alan nodded, finally turning away from the view. "Any word on our welcome committee?" "Just the usual warnings about environmental protocols," Samantha replied, scanning the incoming data. "They seem very concerned about our biological containment," Alan frowned. Ever since humanity had made first contact 6 months ago, the Galactic Confederation had treated them with a mixture of fascination and fear. Earth had been classified as a death world, a planet with conditions so harsh that most galactic species considered it uninhabitable. This made humans objects of both scientific interest and deep suspicion. "Suit up," he ordered, heading toward the preparation chamber. Full protocols. Their environmental suits were lightweight but fully sealed, designed to protect the aliens from them as much as to protect humans from any exotic microbes. The irony wasn't lost on Alan. Humans, who had spent centuries fearing alien contamination, were now considered the dangerous ones. The docking sequence completed with a gentle shudder through the ship. Alan and Samantha stood at the airlock, representing the entirety of humanity in this first official diplomatic meeting. Behind them waited Dr. Laura Bennett, their xenobiologist, and security officer Greg Martinez, both equally nervous and trying not to show it. "Remember," Alan said quietly, "we're here to join their community, not to frighten them. Slow movements, quiet voices." The airlock cycled open to reveal 3 beings waiting for them. In the center stood a tall, thin creature with feathery appendages and large, compound eyes, clearly the leader. To its left was a bulbous entity that seemed to float slightly above the ground, its transparent skin revealing shifting organs within. The third being was more insectoid, with 6 limbs and an exoskeleton that gleamed like polished copper. "Welcome, Earth representatives," the feathered being said, its translator rendering the words in a flat monotone. "I am Kevlar, Science, Council Chair. These are Ambassador Zhu and Security Chief Raxtil." Alan stepped forward but stopped when the bulbous being, Zhu, rippled in what appeared to be alarm. "Forgive our caution," Kevlar continued. "Your physical density and strength are concerning to many of our species." "We understand," Alan replied, staying perfectly still. "We're grateful for the opportunity to learn your customs." Kevlar's feathers shifted in what might have been a gesture of acknowledgement. "Please follow us to decontamination. We must ensure your suits haven't been compromised during transit." The decontamination chamber was large and circular, with walls that pulsed with soft blue light. As they stood in the center, Alan could feel a slight tingling across his skin, even through the suit. "Our scientists have been studying the data you transmitted about your world," Kevlar said as they waited. "It is difficult to comprehend how sentient life evolved in such conditions." "What aspects of Earth do you find most surprising?" asked Samantha. "Always the diplomat. Your gravity would crush most Confederation species instantly," replied Zhu, speaking for the first time through its translator. "And your atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen at levels toxic to many life forms. Not to mention your radiation levels," added Raxtil, the insectoid security chief. "Your star bombards your world with energy that would kill most species." Alan exchanged a glance with Samantha. They had known their world was different, but hearing it described as a death trap was still jarring. "And yet, here we are," Alan said, with a careful smile. "Adaptable and eager to learn." "Yes, adaptable." Kevlar's tone suggested this was precisely what worried them. After decontamination, they were led through sweeping corridors to a large chamber where dozens of different species gathered around a circular platform. Some floated in containment, Fields, others wore their own environmental suits, and a few appeared to be holographic projections. The full council, Kevlar explained. They will decide on Earth's application for Confederation membership. Alan felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes as they took their positions on the platform. A subtle humming filled the room as translation systems activated. Representatives of Earth, began a massive being composed of what looked like living crystal. You seek to join our community of worlds, but many among us question whether a species from such an extreme environment can truly integrate with our peaceful coalition. We have reviewed your history, continued another voice belonging to a small furry creature with enormous eyes. Your evolution was shaped by constant survival pressure and predation. Your bodies are dense with muscle. Your endoskeletons are reinforced with calcium. Your reflexes are incredibly fast by our standards. Many consider these traits dangerous. Alan stepped forward carefully. We understand your concerns. Earth has shaped us to be survivors, yes. But the same pressures that made us strong also taught us cooperation, innovation, and compassion. These are the qualities we hope to bring to the Confederation. A ripple of communication passed through the assembled aliens, some form of private discussion their translators weren't processing. There is one more test we wish to perform, Kevlar announced. With your permission. Alan nodded cautiously. The gravity on the platform suddenly increased, nearly doubling. Samantha gasped but remained standing. Alan felt his legs straining but locked his knees and kept his position. Behind them, Laura and Greg similarly adjusted their stances. Around the room, there were sounds of surprise from the watching aliens. Fascinating, said the crystalline being as the gravity returned to normal. You barely reacted to forces that would incapacitate most of our species. On Earth, we sometimes experience similar forces during space travel or specialized training, Samantha explained. Our bodies are adapted to withstand them, which is precisely what concerns us, said a voice from the back of the chamber. Oh. New figure moved forward, a being composed of swirling gases contained within a mechanical framework. If these Deathworlders can survive conditions that would kill us, what else are they capable of? How can we be certain they won't become the dominant force in the Confederation within a generation? Alan took a deep breath. This was the real fear. Not that humans would be too weak to contribute, but that they would be too strong. We don't seek dominance, he said firmly. Earth has had its share of conflict, but we've learned from it. We seek knowledge, friendship, and mutual benefit. Test us, observe us. Let us prove through actions that we can be trusted partners. The council chamber fell silent for several moments. Finally, Kevlar spoke. The council proposes a probationary period. 2 human representatives will serve aboard the exploration vessel Celestial Seeker. This will allow us to observe your species in various environments and situations. And after this probationary period, asked Alan, then we will know whether Deathworlders can truly become allies, answered the crystalline being. As they left the council chamber, Samantha moved closer to Alan. They're afraid of us, she whispered. Alan nodded slowly. And yet they're willing to give us a chance. That's all we need. One chance to show them what humanity is really capable of. The stars beyond the station's windows no longer seemed so alien. Soon they would be traveling among them, carrying the hopes of Earth with them. Alan straightened his shoulders, ready for the challenge ahead. Life aboard the Celestial Seeker was nothing like the Earth vessels Alan and Samantha had trained on. The ship was designed to accommodate multiple species with vastly different environmental needs. Some sections were filled with methane gas, others with thick liquid similar to Earth's oceans, and a few were kept at temperatures that would freeze human blood in seconds. For the first 2 weeks, the human representatives found themselves largely confined to their assigned quarters and the central command deck, which was maintained at conditions most species could tolerate with minimal protection. I feel like we're living in a zoo exhibit, Samantha whispered during their morning meal. The food was synthesized to match Earth nutrition but tasted slightly wrong. Everyone watches us eat like we're performing a trick. Alan nodded slightly. aware of the curious stares from the other crew members who were taking their own meals in specially designed containment fields around the common area. They're just not used to our biology. Remember how tourists used to watch gorillas at feeding time in old Earth zoos? Great, Samantha sighed. We're the gorillas. Their integration into the crew had been slow and awkward. Captain Dorr, a silicon-based life form who communicated through patterns of light that flickered across their crystalline body, was formally polite, but clearly wary. The ship's engineer, Nev, had 4 long arms and breathed methane, requiring a special mask when working alongside the humans. And then there was Relixa, the ship's doctor, whose gelatinous body flowed and shifted like living water. Humans, Relixa gurgled during one of their required medical examinations. Your bodies repair themselves without conscious effort. Fascinating, but concerning. Why concerning? Asked Samantha, as Relixa's tendril-like appendage measured her pulse. Species with rapid healing developed such abilities due to frequent injury, Relixa explained. It suggests your world is exceptionally dangerous even by Deathworld standards. Before Samantha could respond, a ship-wide alert sounded. The lighting changed to a pulsing amber, and Captain Dorr's voice echoed through the communication system. All crew to stations. We have received a distress signal from the mining facility on asteroid KX-92. Prepare for investigation and potential rescue operations. Alan and Samantha rushed to the command deck, where the rest of the senior crew was already gathering. A holographic display showed a lumpy, potato-shaped asteroid surrounded by debris. The facility went silent 26 hours ago, Captain Dorr explained, light patterns flashing rapidly across their surface. Last transmission indicated gravitational system malfunction. We are the closest Confederation vessel. Nev's 4 hands moved quickly over the control surfaces. Sensors indicate the facility is still intact, but internal readings show massive gravitational fluctuations. Most areas are experiencing between 2 and 5 times standard gravity. Around the room, the alien crew members shifted uneasily. For beings evolved on low-gravity worlds, such forces would be instantly fatal. We cannot send rescue teams under these conditions, stated Captain Dorr. We will maintain position and wait for specialized equipment. Alan exchanged a look with Samantha before stepping forward. Captain, Lieutenant Collins and I can handle those gravity levels. Earth's gravity is already stronger than Confederation standard, and we've trained in high-G environments. The entire room fell silent. Rilx's body rippled with what Alan had come to recognize as shock. Impossible, said Nev. Organic beings cannot function at such gravity levels. Humans can, Samantha insisted. Our skeletal structure and muscle density allow us to operate at up to 3 times Earth normal gravity for short periods. It's uncomfortable but not impossible. Captain Dorr's lights flickered in what might have been disbelief. You propose to enter the facility yourselves? Yes, Alan confirmed. We can assess the situation, find survivors if there are any, and possibly fix the gravitational systems. That won't work, Captain Dorr flashed. Even if you could survive the gravity, the fluctuations are unpredictable. You could move from normal conditions to crushing force in seconds. Watch us, Samantha said firmly. This is exactly why having Deathworlders on your crew is valuable. After much debate, the captain reluctantly agreed to their plan. While the aliens prepared the rescue shuttle, Alan and Samantha suited up in their reinforced environmental gear. We realize this is our chance to prove ourselves, Alan said quietly as he checked Samantha's oxygen levels. Or die trying, she replied with a grim smile. No pressure. The journey to the asteroid was short, but tense. As they approached the docking bay, sensors showed the gravity fluctuating wildly throughout the facility. We will maintain communication. Captain Dorr's voice came through their helmet speakers. If the situation becomes too dangerous, you must return immediately. Understood, Captain, Alan responded as the airlock sealed behind them. The moment they stepped into the facility, they felt the increased pull of artificial gravity. It was like wearing a suit made of lead, but both humans remained upright through sheer determination. Life support is operational, Samantha noted, checking her scanner. But gravity control is malfunctioning from that direction. She pointed, down a long corridor where they could actually see the air wavering from gravitational distortion. They moved carefully, testing each section before committing their weight. In some areas, the gravity was nearly normal. In others, they had to crawl on all fours, their bodies straining against forces that would have crushed their alien crewmates. "I'm detecting power fluctuations from the main control room," Alan said between labored breaths. "And life signs. Faint, but present." They pushed forward, muscles burning with effort. As they reached the control room door, they faced a section where the gravity was so intense that the metal floor had begun to buckle. "We're monitoring your vital signs," came Rilix's concerned voice. "Your cardiac output is dangerously elevated. You cannot proceed." "We can make it," Samantha insisted, though her face was pale with exertion. Alan nodded. "Together on 3. 1, 2, 3. They pushed into the high-gravity zone, moving as quickly as their strained bodies would allow. Each step felt like lifting a small car. Each breath was a conscious effort. But step by painful step, they crossed the 20 feet to the control room door. Inside, they found 2 survivors, mining technicians from a high-gravity species called the Dren. They were alive but trapped, unable to reach the controls to fix the systems. With the Dren providing technical guidance, Alan managed to reset the facility's gravity systems, while Samantha administered emergency medical care. As the gravity slowly normalized throughout the facility, they discovered what had caused the malfunction. Evidence of an unknown species that had apparently attacked the facility before disappearing into space. Hours later, back aboard the Celestial, Seeker, the rescued technicians were recovering in the medical bay while Alan and Samantha underwent their own treatment for muscle strain and minor internal bruising. "You took an unacceptable risk," Captain Dorr told them, lights pulsing slowly, "but your actions saved lives today." Rilxa moved forward, gelatinous body shifting nervously. "I must revise my assessment of human physiology. Your adaptations are impressive." For the first time, the alien crew members were looking at the humans not with fear or suspicion, but with something approaching respect. "Perhaps being Deathworlders isn't such a bad thing after all," Alan said, wincing as he shifted in his recovery pod. "At least not today," Samantha agreed with a tired smile. That night, as they rested, data from the mining facility was being analyzed throughout the ship. No one yet realized that the unknown attackers were about to become a much bigger problem for the entire Confederation, or that the humans' Deathworld adaptations would soon be needed more than ever. 6 months passed aboard the Celestial Seeker. Alan and Samantha had slowly earned the respect of the alien crew. After the mining facility rescue, they had participated in 3 more missions where their unique human abilities proved valuable. Captain Dorr no longer questioned their presence during planning sessions, and even Rilxa had begun studying human biology with genuine interest rather than wary concern. "Your species continues to surprise me," the gelatinous doctor told Samantha during a routine examination. "Yesterday I watched you lift a storage container that would require mechanical assistance for most Confederation species." Samantha shrugged. "On Earth, that would be considered a moderate weight for someone with basic strength training." Before Rilxa could respond, the ship's alert system activated, not the amber warning they had seen before, but a pulsing red that filled the room with urgent light. "All senior personnel to command deck immediately," came Captain Dorr's voice, their normally measured light patterns now rapid and intense. "We have received a priority distress call." When Alan and Samantha arrived, the command deck was already filled with crew members. On the main display was a human face, distorted by static but recognizable as Dr. Peter Howard, chief scientist at the Proxima Centauri Research Outpost. It was one of the first joint human-alien facilities, established as a gesture of cooperation, after Earth joined the Confederation on probationary status. "Under attack, unknown species, conventional defenses failing, need immediate." The transmission cut off abruptly. Captain Dorr turned to the crew, their crystalline body glowing with urgent patterns. The Proxima Centauri outpost is only 3 light jumps away. We are the closest vessel with defense capabilities. Alan stepped forward. What kind of attack? The message didn't specify. The ship's tactical officer, a spider-like being named Vrex, manipulated the controls with 4 of his 8 limbs. Sensor data attached to the distress call shows energy readings unlike anything in Confederation records. The attackers appear to be silicon-based life forms with highly advanced energy weapons. How soon can we reach them? Samantha asked. 8 hours at maximum speed, replied Nev from the engineering station. But we have no information on these attackers. Entering the situation without proper analysis would be extremely dangerous. People are dying, Alan said firmly. We need to go now and develop a strategy on the way. To his surprise, Captain Door's lights flashed in agreement. Commander Wright is correct. Prepare for immediate departure. As the Celestial Seeker rocketed through space, the crew reviewed the limited data from the research outpost. The attackers were now identified as a previously unknown species of silicon-based predators that seemed to feed on energy sources. They are targeting the outpost's power core, Vrex explained, showing a schematic of the facility. Based on movement patterns, they appear to have evolved in extreme conditions, possibly near a dying star. Conventional Confederation weapons have minimal effect on their crystalline exoskeletons. Alan studied the images with growing concern. The creatures resembled nothing so much as walking crystals, with jagged limbs that glowed from within. They moved with purpose, shrugging off energy blasts from the outpost's defenders. If energy weapons don't work, what about physical impact? He asked suddenly. On Earth, even the hardest crystals can shatter if struck properly. The alien crew stared at him. You suggest projectile weapons? Asked Captain Door, lights pulsing, slowly. Such primitive technology was abandoned by Confederation species millennia ago. Sometimes old solutions work for new problems, Samantha pointed out. Humans still train with physical weapons as well as energy ones. After much debate, Alan and Samantha received reluctant permission to modify equipment in the ship's maintenance bay. While the alien crew prepared conventional defense strategies, the humans created improvised weapons based on basic physics that the Confederation's advanced technology had long since moved beyond. When they reached the Proxima Centauri outpost, the situation was dire. Half the facility was dark, its power drained by the crystalline attackers. The remaining defenders had barricaded themselves in the central hub, but sensors showed their power reserves dropping rapidly. Our long-range weapons have no effect, reported Vrex after their first attempt to drive off the attackers. And if we get closer, they may target our ship's power core. We need to board the station, Alan said, checking the makeshift weapon he had constructed. Essentially a high-powered railgun that used magnetic acceleration to launch metal projectiles. Samantha and I can handle the higher gravity and radiation levels without protection. It gives us mobility they won't expect. Your primitive weapons would destroy the outpost containment systems, argued Nev. The resulting pressure loss would kill everyone inside. Not if we precisely target their weak points, Alan countered. Humans have been perfecting the art of controlled destruction for centuries. Captain Door's lights flickered in what Alan had come to recognize as their version of a reluctant sigh. I see no alternative. Proceed, but with extreme caution. The boarding operation was chaotic from the start. Alan and Samantha, along with 2 Dren security officers who could also handle the increased gravity, entered the station through a maintenance airlock. They immediately encountered 3 of the crystalline beings, which turned toward them with an eerie synchronization. Energy weapons from the Dren officers passed harmlessly through the creatures' bodies. But when Alan fired his railgun, the metal projectile struck the lead attacker at its central joint. With a sound like breaking glass, the creature shattered into dozens of glittering fragments. It works, Samantha shouted, firing her own modified weapon at the second attacker with similar results. They fought their way to the central hub, where 27 survivors, both human and alien, were maintaining the last power shields. Dr. Howard greeted them with exhausted relief. They appeared 3 days ago, he explained as they strengthened the barricades. At first we thought they were just curious, until they began draining power from our systems. They seemed to be starving, desperate for energy. Outside the hub, dozens more crystalline beings were gathering. The humans' weapons had proven effective, but they had limited ammunition, and there were too many attackers. "We need a bigger solution," Samantha said, studying the station schematics. "If these creatures feed on energy, maybe we can use that against them." Working with the station's engineers, they developed a desperate plan. They would overload the secondary power core, creating an energy surge that would attract all the creatures to one location, then detonate it in a controlled explosion. "That won't work," insisted one of the alien engineers. "The energy release would be impossible to contain." "Then we don't contain it," Alan replied. "We direct it, like a shaped charge." The plan was dangerous, with countless ways it could go wrong. But with the creatures breaking through their defenses and the Celestial Seeker unable to use its main weapons without destroying the entire station, they had run out of options. As the last barricade began to fail, they put their plan into action. The power surge worked perfectly, drawing the crystalline beings to the secondary core like moths to a flame. When the critical moment came, Alan activated the detonation sequence, and the shaped explosion tore through the gathered creatures, shattering them into harmless fragments. The station was damaged but salvageable. As rescue ships arrived from nearby Confederation outposts, Captain Dorr approached the humans with an unusual display of colored light patterns that the translator rendered as admiration. "Your species' knowledge of what you call primitive warfare saved many lives today," they acknowledged. "Perhaps being a Deathworlder offers advantages we had not considered." As medical teams treated the survivors, Alan watched the remains of the crystalline creatures being collected for study. Something about their desperate search for energy bothered him. They hadn't seemed malicious so much as starving, driven by need rather than hostility. "I think this is just the beginning," he told Samantha quietly. "And I think the Confederation is going to need Deathworlders more than they ever expected." News of the Proxima Centauri incident spread quickly through Confederation channels. The successful defense of the research outpost caught the attention of the Confederation Council, which summoned the Celestial Seeker back to the central station. Alan and Samantha found themselves at the center of an unexpected political storm. "They want to speak with us directly," Captain Dorr informed them as their ship approached the massive space station. "This is unusual. Council members rarely meet with non-representatives." Alan adjusted his formal uniform, still uncomfortable with the lighter gravity of Confederation common areas. "Do they want to commend us or condemn us?" he asked. "Both, perhaps." Captain Dorr's lights pulsed in a pattern that suggested uncertainty. "Your methods were effective but disturbing to many species." The central chamber of the Confederation Council was even larger than Alan remembered. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of species filled the tiered seating, their environmental fields creating a shimmering effect throughout the room. At the center, the High Council, 7 representatives from the founding species, watched from elevated platforms. Commander Alan Wright and Lieutenant Samantha Collins of Earth announced the crystalline being who led the council. "You stand before us having taken actions that require our consideration." A holographic display activated, showing footage from the Proxima Centauri outpost. Alan and Samantha watched themselves fighting the crystalline attackers, their improvised weapons shattering the creatures into fragments. The chamber filled with murmurs and the various sounds of alien communication. "You employed physical weapons," continued the council leader. "Technology deemed unnecessarily destructive and primitive by Confederation standards. Yet, we cannot deny their effectiveness in this situation." From the lower section, a large gaseous being rose in its containment field. Alan recognized the distinctive swirling patterns of a Hovan ambassador. "These humans resort to violence too quickly," the Hovan's translator conveyed. "Their physical capabilities make them natural weapons in our environments. How long before they turn these talents against Confederation members?" Samantha stepped forward. "With respect, Ambassador, we exhausted all conventional options before resorting to physical weapons. We adapted to a crisis using available resources." "But that is precisely what concerns us," replied a new voice. A sleek serpentine being slithered forward on 6 short legs. You adapted to create weapons from maintenance tools in mere hours. Such improvisational violence is alarming. Alan was about to respond when movement caught his eye. To his surprise, Kevlar, the Science Council chair who had first greeted them at the station months ago, moved to the speaker's position. "I have reviewed all data from the Proxima incident," Kevlar stated, feathery appendages rippling. "While initially skeptical of human integration, I must acknowledge that without their unique perspectives, all personnel at that outpost would have perished. Deathworlder psychology provided a solution where our standard approaches failed." The debate intensified, with various representatives arguing for and against expanded human involvement in Confederation affairs. Some suggested restricting humans to their own sector of space. Others proposed recruiting more Deathworlder species to join security forces. During a brief recess, Alan and Samantha were approached by Rilxa, who had accompanied them from the Celestial Seeker. "Humans lack the subtlety to navigate these waters," the gelatinous doctor warned quietly. "Direct confrontation will only strengthen the opposition." "Sometimes direct confrontation is exactly what's needed," replied Alan. "On Earth, we learned that hiding from predators only makes them bolder." When the council reconvened, Alan requested permission to speak. Standing at the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes upon him, he took a deep breath. "Members of the council, I understand your concerns. Humans evolved in conditions that required us to be adaptable, sometimes aggressively so. But those same conditions taught us the value of cooperation. No human survives alone. We built our civilization by working together against common threats." He gestured toward the holographic display which still showed images from Proxima Centauri. "These crystalline beings aren't just a human problem. They attacked a joint facility and showed no distinction between species. And they're still out there." The chamber grew quiet. It was Samantha who broke the silence, stepping forward to join Alan. "While you debate our status, we've been analyzing the data from the attack," she said, nodding to Rilxa, who transmitted files to the Council's system. "These creatures didn't behave like typical predators. Their movements were coordinated, almost military, and the energy signature of their bodies matches unusual radiation patterns detected near 3 other Confederation outposts in the past. A month." The Council leader's crystalline form shimmered with apparent concern. "You suggest these were not isolated incidents?" Before anyone could respond, a junior communications officer burst into the chamber, a serious breach of protocol that caused a wave of surprise through the assembled representatives. "Urgent communication from Outpost Sigma 9, the officer announced. "Similar crystalline entities attacking in greater numbers. 2 Confederation vessels already disabled." The Council erupted in chaotic discussion. Security protocols were activated, and representatives began rapid communications with their homeworlds. In the confusion, Alan noticed something troubling. Several high-ranking officials huddled together, their body language suggesting they were not surprised by this news. Moving closer to Samantha, he whispered, "I think some of them knew this was coming." She nodded slightly. "I've been accessing the Confederation data network during the debates. There have been reports of similar attacks going back 3 months, but they've been classified and hidden from general access." Why would they hide this, Alan wondered. Fear of panic, maybe, or something worse. Their conversation was interrupted when the council leader called for order. "We must form a response team immediately. All available defense vessels will be dispatched to Sigma 9. From the upper tier, a tall, spindly representative with translucent skin stood. "Our standard protocols are clearly ineffective against these creatures. Perhaps the human's approach deserves consideration." The chamber fell silent again, but this time with a different quality, a silence of realization rather than judgment. Captain Dorr moved to stand beside Alan and Samantha. "The Celestial Seeker stands ready, and our human crew members have proven their value in this exact scenario." As plans formed for the emergency response, Alan and Samantha found themselves in an unexpected position at the center of Confederation military strategy. The very adaptations that had made humans objects of suspicion now made them essential allies. Later, as they prepared to board the Celestial Seeker for urgent deployment, Kevlar approached them. "I may have judged your species too harshly," the feathered scientist admitted. "But remember, Commander Wright, with acceptance comes responsibility. The Council is watching you closely now, as an indicator of what humanity truly represents." Alan nodded solemnly. "We won't let you down." But as they watched Kevlar walk away, Samantha leaned closer. "Did you notice who wasn't supporting us? The Havon and the Xerax representatives. And they're the ones with mining operations near where these creatures first appeared. You think they know more than they're saying? I think this just got a lot more complicated than a simple alien attack," Samantha replied. "And I think someone in the Confederation is keeping dangerous secrets." The Celestial Seeker was not the only ship rushing to Outpost Sigma 9. A hastily assembled fleet of Confederation vessels converged on the remote station, but Alan and Samantha knew they were likely too late. The crystalline beings, now officially designated as Vorax by Confederation scientists, had proven alarmingly efficient at overwhelming defenses. "We need a better strategy than simply arriving with more ships," Captain Dorr stated during the emergency briefing. Their light patterns were tight and rapid, indicating stress. Alan studied the tactical display showing the spread of Vorax attacks. They're expanding outward from a specific region of space. All attacks originate from the direction of the Hovan mining territories. "That can't be coincidence," Samantha added. And the Hovan representatives seemed particularly eager to restrict human involvement. While the Confederation fleet prepared conventional responses, Alan made a controversial decision. He sent a direct communication to Earth, bypassing the usual Confederation protocols. His message was brief but urgent. Humanity needed to prepare for a possible wider conflict, and he requested contact with other Deathworld species within the Confederation. "You will be stripped of your rank for this insubordination," Captain Dorr warned when they discovered the transmission. "We'll worry about consequences after we save your civilization," Samantha responded as they prepared for arrival at Sigma 9. What they found exceeded their worst fears. The outpost was dark, completely drained of power. Around it floated 3 Confederation ships, similarly lifeless. Scans showed the Vorax had moved on, presumably in search of more energy sources. According to trajectory analysis, their next target will be the Confederation fuel production facility in Sector 7, reported Vrex, the tactical officer. If they drain that facility, half the Confederation fleet will be grounded. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. While the main Confederation forces mustered to defend the fuel facility with their standard tactics, Alan received responses to his unauthorized message. To everyone's surprise, the first to answer was a Hovan commander named Grell. "Not all my species agrees with our council representatives," the gas giant dweller transmitted. "Some of us believe the truth must emerge." The truth, as Grell revealed, was that Hovan mining operations had discovered the Vorax hibernating in deep space near a dying star. Initial scans suggested they were simply unusual crystal formations. But when mining operations disrupted their sleep, the Vorax awakened, starving for energy after centuries of dormancy. "Certain powerful individuals in my government concealed the initial incidents," Grell explained. "They feared responsibility for awakening a threat to the Confederation." More surprising allies emerged. The reptilian Drax, the insectoid Vex, and several other species classified as partial Deathworlders responded to Alan's call. Each had evolved on planets with challenging conditions, not as extreme as Earth, but far harsher than the comfortable worlds of the Confederation's founding species. "We need to combine our unique adaptations," Alan told this unlikely coalition during a secure transmission. "Each of our species sees solutions the others might miss." As the Vorax descended on the fuel facility in overwhelming numbers, the Confederation fleet struggled to maintain defensive positions. Their energy weapons still had minimal effect, and the crystalline beings moved with increasing coordination, suggesting evolving intelligence. The Deathworlder Alliance arrived in a motley collection of ships, incorporating makeshift modifications, based on Alan and Samantha's successful tactics at Proxima Centauri. Physical weapons, electromagnetic pulses, and even sound-based disruption technology had been hastily assembled. The battle was fierce. While the main Confederation forces provided distraction and containment, the Deathworlder ships executed surgical strikes against the Vorax. The Drax, with their incredibly tough scaled bodies, led boarding parties onto captured vessels. The Vex, with compound eyes that could process visual information at extraordinary speeds, coordinated the complex attack patterns. The Hovan rebels, whose protective outer membranes evolved to withstand crushing pressures, proved unexpectedly effective at close-range combat with the crystalline beings. And at the center of it all were the humans, their Deathworld adaptations, allowing them to push through pain, improvise solutions, and function under stress levels that would incapacitate most Confederation species. Alan led a desperate boarding mission onto the largest Vorax vessel, a massive crystalline structure that appeared to direct the others. While Samantha coordinated the battle from the Celestial Seeker, Alan and a mixed team of Deathworlders fought their way to the central chamber. What they found there changed everything. The Vorax were not inherently hostile. At the heart of the ship was a crystal larger than the others, pulsing with fading light. The ship's systems translated enough of its vibrations for Alan to understand. Their star had died faster than expected, leaving them without their primary energy source. Their attacks were acts of desperate survival, not conquest. "We don't need to destroy them," Alan told his team. "We need to offer an alternative." Using emergency communication channels, Alan proposed something unprecedented, a controlled energy supply for the Vorax in exchange for peaceful cooperation. The desperate crystalline beings facing extinction accepted. When the Confederation Council convened an emergency session 3 days later, they were faced with a new reality. The Deathworlder Alliance had not only stopped the Vorax threat, but had turned potential enemies into new allies, and they had done it by directly disobeying Council orders. "You violated our most sacred protocols," the Council leader told Alan and Samantha, who stood before them with representatives from the other Deathworld species. "Yet we cannot deny the results. The Confederation was founded on the principle that diverse species are stronger together," Samantha replied. "But you've been excluding the perspectives of those evolved in harsher environments. Today proved how valuable those perspectives can be." The debate lasted for days. In the end, the Council reached a historic decision. A new division would be formed within the Confederation, the Adaptive Response Unit, led by representatives from Deathworld species and tasked with handling crises that required unconventional approaches. "Perhaps what makes us different is exactly what makes us valuable." Alan addressed the Council at the ceremony, appointing him and Samantha as human representatives to the new division. "The universe is vast and full of challenges. Having evolved on a Deathworld doesn't make us monsters. It makes us prepared." In the following months, diplomatic relations were established with the Vorax, who proved to be ancient and knowledgeable once their energy needs were met. Hovan officials, who had hidden information about the initial contact, were removed from office. And throughout the Confederation, attitudes toward Deathworlders slowly began to shift. The phrase "that won't work" became something of a joke among Confederation officials. Whenever it was spoken, someone would inevitably respond with a smile and the now famous words, "Watch us, Deathworlder." As for Alan and Samantha, they found themselves at the beginning of a new chapter, not just for humanity but for all species that had once been feared and marginalized for their evolutionary heritage. The adaptations that had once made them threatening now made them indispensable to a galactic community facing an unpredictable universe. The Deathworlders had found their place among the stars,